Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. Let's meet your hosts, Chris Angel and Michael Maher.
Welcome back, everybody. It is another episode of the Referrals Podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with your host, as always, Michael J. Maher, and our guest, Sarah. Sarah, how do you say your name? Chatel?
Yes, Chatel.
That's what I wanted to say. Chatel. Awesome. Michael, take us away here, sir. You know Sarah.
Yeah. So talk about a leader in the generosity generation, right? And I met Sarah about 9 years ago when I became the president of productivity over 1,200 agents. And I only remember her. So that tells you everything. So it's one of where she happened to be in the office I also had an office out of. And her and her assistant were front row. Like every single time I had a session, they were in the front row. The iPad recorded it. And Sarah would collect this in a book and just be like the perfect student. You know what I mean? I mean, literally the perfect student. And it was one of those where she just really absorbed it, and then it came out over time as this wonderful business that she currently runs today. She owns a real estate company, and has probably quadrupled your business. And what have you done in the last 9 years? Right? I mean, like quadrupled.
Oh. Absolutely. Well, I want to go back to when I met you, Michael. I had changed careers. So I was in technology sales prior to going into real estate. And I actually started real estate to do it just part-time because I was burned out from corporate sales. And then you showed up, and the old adage, when your student the teacher appears when the student's ready, or whatever that is. You appeared at the right time and showed me a different way to do business. Mm-hmm. And it was one that resonated with my personality. So that's why I sat in the front row, and I was so glued and still implementing the things that I learned from you. And after a year of coaching with you, I'm still implementing those things. I'm a certified referral trainer as well. And totally buy in on the 7 levels of communication and the Michael Maher way of doing business.
Awesome. And so I think the biggest thing that we really want to talk about is like, you have taken the generosity piece of this. There's love, generosity, and appreciation. And you are kind of the master of generosity when it comes to charities, partnering with charities. And as far as I know, I believe that you have the biggest give back campaign that we have seen. There's the 3 principles with generosity generation, right? Which is give first, give thanks, and give back. And so we always encourage people to have a give first campaign, a give thanks campaign, and then a give back campaign. And sometimes the easiest to implement is the give back campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that her last charity received a check of $112,000 from what Sarah did in the marketplace. You want to talk about influential? She was influential to the tune of $112,000, and that's not like she put all of her energy into just that. I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago that you did $50,000 for the Habitat for Humanity. Is that correct?
In 1 year, that's correct.
In 1 year. And did that build you 1 home or 2? Did that help the Habitat for Humanity? They went to 1, right? Yeah, okay. So talk to us about, like, you're building out this, I mean, so what kind of triggered it? Maybe starting in 2010. We don't have to go back into that all that much, but I think, all right. So what did the Habitat for Humanity campaign a couple of years ago do for you and do for your business, right?
Right. So let's back up just a tad. When I first started coaching with you and getting to know your systems and so forth, I was in my mid 50s. And when you're in your 50s, I don't know, I'm speaking generally.
Now you're in your mid 40s. So I just want you to know that everybody that's implementing the generosity generation is you could look like that in your mid 40s, right?
No.
So it's like, you get younger doing this. So
well, what happened when I turned 50 is I made
and it looks like you got something. So sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, when I turned 50, I made a decision to make the next 50 years of my life all about leaving a legacy. So then I met you when I was probably 54, 55. And after that, I started thinking about what kind of legacy can I leave? And I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. I got to turn.
Another referral right there.
No.
So on the leave a legacy, one of the first things that we did as an exercise was, what is your epitaph? What are the 10 to 20 words at the most that you want written on your tombstone? And how do you want to be eulogized? What we did the 4 eulogies exercise, which is, what would your husband say? What would you want your daughter to say? What would you want your son to say? What would you want one of your clients to say? And what was their eulogy on, how do we leave this legacy? And you obviously said, I want it to be, I want it to revolve and evolve around charities and giving. Right.
Well, to drill it down even more specifically, it is to leave a legacy of love. And part of that legacy has to come from time, talents, and relationships with people. So giving of my time, giving back, my talents, even if I don't have the money right to contribute, I can volunteer. And the relationships, making sure that every relationship that I am involved with, whether it's a client or a personal friend, that they leave that relationship, whether it's a lunch or a dinner or just a phone call, that they feel appreciated and they feel loved at the end. So that's where my heart is, and that's where I come from.
So
I love that. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I just was going to ask, because I wanted sort of the framework of it. So you have these successful give back campaigns, and I'm curious if you can give me just the world of it. Like, what is it? Is it an event? Is it this thing where the community gets involved? Give me the world of what it is from a high level.
So let's start. Well, I wanted to give you the background on the mission of how. So from there, I learned about an organization called Give Back Homes, which is a organization that the guy that developed the Tom shoes started to build homes in poverty-stricken areas across the world and in the U.S. So I became a member of that. And as part of that membership, I have been partnered with Atlanta Habitat. So in 2015, when I started my team, we decided as a team that in 2016, we were going to donate $50,000 of our commission towards Habitat and however many houses that built. In order to build a house, it takes, it's $5,000 to contribute per one build day. So you divide that by 8. You multiply that by 8, and it's around 80 to 100,000 to build a house from scratch. So we, since 2015, we've built 14 houses. That one year, we fell short of our $50,000 goal only by just about $3,000, but we came up with $47,000. And the interesting thing is that in December, when I realized we were going to be somewhat short, I called a friend of mine who has a foundation, and I said, I know that you donate to Habitat. Would you mind donating through my team, so that I get credit for your donation as part of my pledge? And she said, sure. So she got the donation and I got the donation, and it worked as a twofer.
So you made 50,000 your first year, right?
47. It was 47, but
Okay.
So then we've continued to donate to Habitat since then. And like I said, since 2015, we've helped build 14 houses.
Yeah, that's
now
fantastic.
Fast forward, the woman that I called about helping me meet that goal in 2015, last year approached me about being involved in the Alzheimer's Association. And, the rule of reciprocity, you know what I mean.
Reciprocity, yeah, we got you.
I was absolutely, I'll help you. And so I signed up to do it, which meant volunteering my time and dancing with a professional dancer, which I did for a whole year in preparation for the Dancing with the Stars for Alzheimer's.
Wow. You had to dance with a professional male dancer for a year?
Yes.
That must have been really hard for you. So, and you're such a good dancer as it is.
Well, he's 32, so he could be my son, actually, and very adorable and a great teacher. I learned a whole lot. But during that process, I had to start raising money, and so I just used what I knew. Call the people on my phone, send them texts, send them emails, have lunch with people. And the woman that had given me that money, what was $10,000 to Habitat in 2015, she donated $20,000 towards my campaign for Alzheimer's. And then she called her friends and got them to donate. And one of her friends alone gave me $35,000 for Alzheimer's. And oh, by the way, I don't know this other woman. Okay. Yeah. So, you're talking about the Great Retrace, Michael. So I'm implementing the Great Retrace, and I emailed the woman and I said, you donated to me through Sherry, and I'd like for you and Sherry and me to go to lunch. I'd like to take you both out to lunch. It's appreciation for how much you supported my efforts. But you figure the 20 plus 30, 55,000 of the 112 that I got came from two people.
There you go. That's the ambassador rule, right? Is that, different people have different values to your world and to your business, right? And it's the same way. And it's not always a dollar figure, right? It's other values. But in this case, I really want to hone in on a strategy that Sarah utilized right there that takes the Great Retrace kind of to the next level, which is what we call the Great Retrace lunch or Great Retrace dinner. So you take the people that are in a Great Retrace strand, right? So for her, there's the person who donated because they heard about the $35,000 lady, and the $35,000 lady came from Sherry. And then how did you get connected to Sherry?
So that's exactly. So I met Sherry through a guy named Michael who introduced.
No, sorry.
I know. Go figure.
This is not Sherry Maher, by the way, on this story.
No,
it isn't, is it? She didn't donate $20,000, did she? No, she might have. I might.
Just kidding. No, it wasn't Sherry Maher, and it wasn't Michael Maher. But so the guy that introduced me to Sherry was a guy named Michael, who I'm involved in his organization. It's the Atlanta History Center. And he introduced me at an event at the Atlanta History Center. So he's the director of the Atlanta History Center, and he introduced me to Sherry.
Let's get ready for referrals! In the red corner, we have the average agent working by advertising, learning on the fly, no systems, no profit, and no clients. And in the blue corner, we have what could be you, the profitable agent working by referral, loving life and loving their clients. Take your business to the next level and go to www.callwithcoach.com and set up your free referral coaching session. Go now, change your business forever. www.callwithcoach.com.
Yeah, 100%. So a couple things here is is that, so you create this great retrace, who connected me, introduced me, or referred me to who, and you just keep going back that way. And then you invite the 4, 5, 6, 8, whatever it is, to a lunch or to a dinner. And you just, you sit there and you go, I just have to put the dots together on how this works. And you have dinner, right? And everybody's chatting and reconnecting, and there's no pressure to it. There's no agenda to it. It's just a nice thank you. And you're paying for dinner or you're paying for lunch. And one of the cool things about it too is what you discover with the Great Retrace is as you go back, it seems like they become more and more influential. As you go back, it's like, wow, the fourth one back, it knows everybody or is just super, super connected. So you're not just having lunch with 5 people, you're having lunch with 500,000 because of the people that they know combined at this dinner. So that's a huge strategy that people need to put into place. Did you do any events for your Alzheimer or for the Habitat for Humanity Give Back campaign?
I did for Alzheimer's. I had two events, and one event garnered $20,000 and the second event garnered $10,000.
Wow.
That's fantastic. I mean, 10,000 alone at an event is off the charts. To do another one for 20, that's amazing. What did you do?
So
I'm sure Chris is like, what did you do? Right.
The first event, I invited a celebrity. My husband is related to Andy Card, who was the chief of staff for the two Bushes. And if you want a visual of who Andy Card is, he's the guy that leaned over and whispered to George W. that the planes were crashing into the towers.
When he was reading to the kindergartners?
That's Andy Card.
He handled that the right way, right?
He did.
He instead of saying, President, we've got to go, there's an emergency, right? And it's like George W. Bush calmly finished the story, and then they jetted out. So anyway, so those of you that don't know the story, check it out.
Well, and Andy is off the charts in EQ. It's incredible. So I don't know Andy, but Peter knows Andy. So Peter called Andy because Andy's mother died of Alzheimer's. So Peter said, is there any chance that you could possibly come and be the guest at this event that Sherry wanted to have for me? It was at Sherry's house. And he said, I need to get in touch with my handlers and this and that. And it took us several months to get on his calendar, but he flew in Saturday morning. The event was Saturday night, and he flew out Sunday morning. So he came just for the event.
Wow.
And I, when I introduced him, I said, this is not about politics. It's about Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And Alzheimer's affects every single person in this room. Somebody knows somebody that has Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And so Andy just told his story about his mom, and some really funny stories about, she was a high school cheerleader. So that when she got Alzheimer's in her mid-60s, her brain reverted back to being a high school cheerleader. So she thought she was a high school cheerleader, and she would just break out into cheer. It was crazy. And she wasn't.
4 bits, 6 bits a dollar.
Yes.
REBOUND, rebound. I like it.
She was a happy Alzheimer's person.
That's awesome. If it's going to be something, right? Happy is the way to go, right?
Yes, but it was difficult on the caregivers. So there were 5 siblings, and she only remembered Andy, which was hard on the other 4 kids. So Andy was very transparent and told the story. And then he moved into, and I know everyone wants to hear about 9/11 and what happened from my perspective. So he went into that story and told from the minute he talked about how he was outside of the room when George W. was reading the book, and Secret Service came to him and whispered. and they thought it was just an accident. The first plane was just an accident. And then the second plane in, they realized that we were under attack. And so he had to quickly decide how to handle this. And so within a split second, what everybody knows, he went in and whispered to the president that we were under attack. And he just went from hour by hour, what happened that entire day up until like midnight, 1:00 in the morning. There was not a dry eye in the house. People were so moved and touched because everybody has their own 9/11 story. Everybody in that room knew exactly where they were when that happened. And so, besides politics, that was a universal experience that everyone could relate to, along with the Alzheimer's. So anyway, he because of that, people were so moved by his authenticity and his vulnerability and his connectedness. So he made sure that when people came up to talk with him, he looked everyone in the eye, and you were the most important person in the room at the time. He blocked everyone else out. He was focused totally on what you had. It was very powerful.
In relationship building right there, right? His example. And how do you become really influential? How do you become the chief of staff at the White House, right? It's treating the person who's in front of you as the most special person in the world. Chris, you had a question as well.
I just wanted to, for the sake of time, I wanted to the reality is we could there's all sorts of systems and mechanics to how do you pull this off effectively. And Sarah, you have a track record now of doing that. And I would imagine maybe Sherry can reach out to you for some of the mechanical parts of how to really put on an event like this. And then you guys listening could have access as a download at referralspodcast.com. But I think I want to sort of, maybe we should have Sarah back and go deeper at another time on.
I think the big thing is, okay, so there's the one part where it's just, this is awesome to raise 112,000, but there's the other picture. This is Referrals Podcast, right? Does generosity lead to reciprocity,
right,
which leads to referrals, which leads to profitability, that leads to prosperity, right? So it's like, it forced you to have more conversations over the last 4 or 5 years because you've got something else to talk about, the Give Back campaign. What have you noticed from a business standpoint? And I may ask you to just kind of bottom line it for us, but what have you noticed from a business standpoint that working with the charitable side has done?
Well, my business is increasing daily. I'm blessed beyond measure with clients that love me, that want to work with me, want to support my charities. And I don't know. I feel very blessed. I did a successful social media fundraising campaign. So I hit everybody I knew. Realtors across the world donated.
Wow.
People locally donated. People that were not local, but were friends of people that were local, donated. This thing went on and on and on beyond anything that I could ever imagine. And so my big takeaway, Michael, and this is how I'd like to end here, is that the 7-level system is not just for real estate, it's for your life. I don't care what you're doing. If you're a garbage collector, I don't care if you're selling shoes, I don't care what you're doing. It's all about the 7 levels of communication, and the top layer being face-to-face communication. And just, it's transferable. It's transferable into whatever you're doing. And that's how I'd like to end it.
Sarah, if people listening to this want to reach out to you, learn more, ask you questions about how you did things, or even send you a referral in the Atlanta
Buckhead,
area.
In Atlanta, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
How do people reach you?
They could also continue to donate to my the Alzheimer's fundraising campaign is still open, even though the gala is over. The campaign is still on, and I will type in the link so you guys can share it.
Perfect. Yep, that's great.
We'll put it with the show notes for sure, Sarah.
Yeah.
And then you're a Buckhead realtor in Atlanta, Georgia. How do they reach you? Or how's the best way to reach you?
My number is 404-784-4871, 404-784-4871.
Perfect.
And I have a small team called the Chatel Group, and we love to give back, and we love to partner with people all across the world. So
beautiful. Sarah, thanks for being on the show. I love, Michael, I always love it when you bring people in who are doing, obviously, the 7L stuff. I mean, that's who you bring in. But when they're doing it at a level that also is an expression of the generosity thing, right? Where it's amazing. So cool. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. Like I said, a master of the generosity piece of this. And, you know, the byproduct of that has been not just a better life, but also a business that is quadrupled, maybe even quintupled if we really look at it. Over the last 4 or 5 years. So, and she's built 15 homes and, you know, raised over 100,000 for Alzheimer's. I mean, it's been a pretty good legacy so far, and I'm really excited about the future.
So good. Michael and Sarah, thank you for today. Thanks for your time. Until next time, take care.
Thank you.